These are the 15 most fascinating segments exploring conspiracy theories ever shared on the Joe Rogan Experience. From an advanced civilization found within the Amazon, to theories such as the multiverse, reality being a simulation, and a one-world government, these are some of the craziest conspiracies from JRE. First up, Sam Tripoli drops a bomb on Joe Rogan. He explores a conspiracy theory surrounding Benjamin Franklin, and it is literally the last thing you could ever expect to hear about Benjamin Franklin. This is a conversation from episode 1852.
Dude, you ever hear about what Ben Franklin was? Okay, that's a different story, but...
What did he do?
You never heard that, like, what he was found in it, they found in his house?
No.
Like, tons of bodies, bro.
What?
Ben Franklin, they found tons of bodies in his...
Ben Franklin was a serial killer?
No, he was, like, doing some weird shit, dude. Bodies.
Like experimenting with bodies?
Yeah.
The scary thing is that Tripoli isn't exaggerating. Just look at this photo taken from Ben Franklin's house, where over 1,200 human bones were discovered.
Repairs on Franklin's old London house turned up 1,200 pieces of bone from at least 15 people. Holy shit. For nearly 2 decades. By the way, this is from the Smithsonian. This is not some wacky conspiracy
This ain't SamTripoli.com.
Yeah. For nearly 2 decades leading up to the signing of the Declaration of Independence, Benjamin Franklin lived in London in a house on 36 Craven Street. In 1776, Franklin left his English home to come back to America. More than 200 years later, 15 bodies were found in the basement, buried in a secret windowless room beneath the garden.
And look at this. It gets even weirder because these bodies were 200 years old, making it almost a certainty that Franklin was living in the house at the time the bodies were buried. The theories about who the bodies were linked to, however, get even crazier, as Rogan and Tripoli are about to explain.
From a 1 meter wide, 1 meter deep pit, over 1,200 pieces of bone were retrieved. Remnants of more than a dozen bodies, said Benjamin Franklin's house. 6 were children. Forensic investigation showed that the bones dated to Franklin's day. Holy shit.
Of course, the explanation as to why these bodies were buried beneath Franklin's home gets even weirder because it seems likely that Franklin wasn't just a mass murderer. Instead, listen to what Rogan had to say about it.
The most plausible explanation is not mass murder, but an anatomy school run by Benjamin's young friend and protege, William Hewson. Oh, just an anatomy school.
Yeah, and we're just going to bury them downstairs.
Okay, anatomy was still in its infancy, but the day's social and ethical mores frowned upon it. A steady supply of human bodies was hard to come by legally, so Hewson, Hunter, and Field's other pioneers had to turn to grave robbing, either paying professional resurrection men to procure cadavers or digging them up themselves to get their hands on specimens.
This explanation initially seems normal enough, but things get even stranger when you consider Franklin's history as a Freemason. Franklin was a famous Freemason and a very notable member, and it's possible these bodies could have been the result of some Freemason rituals. Listen to what Rogan and Tripoli have to say about this.
You know,
So weird note to add in another article about this.
oh boy.
It's just
Franklin's history as a Mason was one of the historian's initial points of inquiry. Though shrouded in secrecy, Masonic rituals have dark, known undercurrents which have at times gone horribly wrong. For example, in a 2004 initiation ceremony, a new member was accidentally shot by a member who meant to fire an empty gun but instead fired a loaded one.
Up next, Rogan debates the space is fake theory, and things get wild. It all starts when Rogan sees news about Japan's space elevator. This is a conversation from episode 1222 with Michael Shermer.
Japan takes tiny first steps towards space elevator. Yeah, you can off. I'm not getting in that thing. It'll take a few years before I'm willing to climb into that sucker.
So the other problem with conspiracies, just to get back there for a moment, is the problem of anomalies. What do you do with anomalies? This is true in all science. No theory explains every single thing that's out there that we want to study.
Shamir explains the theory that some conspiracy theorists believe that space is actually fake and doesn't exist in the way NASA and other agencies claim it does.
Do you know that there's a growing movement that think that the space is fake?
While there are plenty of theories that the moon landing is fake and even some fringe theories that the Earth is flat. The theory Joe Rogan is talking about takes things a step further.
So what would be the upper atmosphere? Would be the edge of
It's
the
all
universe?
bullshit. It's all fake.
That's the end.
And it's tied in some weird way to religion, which is really interesting. Because even the flat earth people, there's a tremendous amount of them that are extremely religious. And they talk about the firmament, the Bible.
Right.
This is what's really going on, is that they're trying to keep us from the knowledge that God has created this place as a very special place.
Right.
Rogan explains that these theorists believe the government is somehow controlling us, saying this.
They somehow or another are controlling us. They're
Right.
thinking that we're not exceptional and we're
Oh,
not
boy.
lucky.
He also admits that he was a firm believer that we never went to the moon.
I was a firm believer that we never went to the moon.
You
for a
were?
long- Yeah, this is what happened. I watched that Fox documentary,
Yep.
The Moon Conspiracy Theory,
Yeah.
Did We Go? And I was like, holy shit. I remember I went to work and I told everybody, you got to see this documentary. It's crazy. We never went to the moon.
Check this out. Rogan mentions another documentary titled A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. He then brings up some of the evidence from that documentary.
Then there was also the fact that they lost all of the telemetry data, which was the binary, the ones and zeros that show the position of the lunar module at every stage.
Rogan also brings up the strange behavior of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin after the moon landing.
You go and watch the press conference. The press conference, they look very shady. Look like they're completely
Yeah, but
full
Buzz
of shit.
Aldrin's not like that. He talks to everybody.
He was a drunk for a long time, though. He was very depressed and became an alcoholic after the moon landing. And the idea is that
Oh, I see. Right.
in conspiracy circles, if I'm
Right.
talking as them,
Right.
the idea is that he got over it after a while and needed to make a living. And now he talks about it constantly.
Okay, all right.
But Neil Armstrong never did.
Even though Michael Shermer doesn't look particularly convinced, Rogan goes on to give him even more evidence, such as an example of Michael Collins on a photoshopped spacewalk which was accidentally released by the PR section of the agency.
The thing that's compelling is that there's some faking going on. If you look at Gemini, was it Gemini 15? Michael Collins, there's an image of Michael Collins when they were testing some of the space walking stuff and some of the things that they would do to walk outside of a spaceship. They had them all strapped up with cables, and they're just experimenting with these things. They took that photograph and then blacked out the background, probably some overzealous PR agent.
Take a look at this. This is the blacked out and edited photo that Rogan is talking about, and it looks extremely similar to how an actual photo of an astronaut spacewalk would. Still, Joe admits that it's probably more likely that there's a mixture of fake and real footage than the whole moon landing being
And
faked.
it's way more likely that there was more of that going on than that people didn't actually go to the moon, right?
Only a month later though, Rogan completely reevaluates his opinion on the space is fake theory. Rogan goes more into depth on theory. This is a conversation from Joe Rogan's Fight Companion on February 17th, 2019.
I'm doing research on this currently.
Space.
I want to direct everyone to hashtag space is fake. 'Cause I've been doing research on
check
space
that
being
out.
fake.
Check
Is that
that
real?
out.
That's a real site?
Yeah, hashtag space is fake is something I'm investigating for my next hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm for legitimately looking deep into
Dude,
people
flat
that
Earth, there's
flat
so much
earthers
material
mock
there.
them.
There's
Flat
so-
Earth is like, what? Space
No,
is fake. What?
no.
You dumb mother.
No, it's the
Flat
same
Earthers
thing.
walk away
No,
from
it's the same thing.
Oh, okay.
You got it all wrong.
This is when Joe Rogan is about to realize that the space is fake movement doesn't just mean that space as a whole is fake, but instead that the theorists believe an alternative version of what NASA tells people.
No,
There's no way.
anybody that thinks the Earth is flat, they totally don't believe what we're taught about what's above us. So when
the
people
sun?
say space
Wait a
is
minute.
fake, they
What about the
mean-
sun?
They mean all the information we're getting. You're lying about that shit. That it's not that it doesn't exist. Of course it exists. We see
Right,
it.
of course.
But space is fake sounds ridiculous. Like
There's something
we're
up
looking
there.
at it and it's fake. That's ridiculous. That's
just
not what
the
it means. It
Truman
means
Show.
that all the information we got about all
We're
those
off.
lights in the sky.
Yeah, something
They're
else?
They're lying
NASA's
to
lying?
us. They're lying to us.
Take a look at this image. What some theorists believe is that NASA is actually lying about what space is, and that there is a barrier of water above the firmament that constitutes what we refer to as space. It sounds crazy, but Eddie Bravo goes on to say this.
The goal has always been for the most powerful emperors is a one world government. They always wanted a one world government. All the Roman emperors, they try to figure out, they try to do different combinations. How about and they would fall, and a new emperor would come and go, you know what? I'm going to rule
World
the
domination, in other words. Aztecs.
I'm not going to let my soldiers get married. That way we'll have a stronger army.
He then says that there's only one way to make a one-world government, something that many influential figures have written about.
The only way to make a one world government work is to have the people embrace it. They have to want it because nobody wants it. So the trick is to make people want it, to embrace it. There's only one way.
What Sheb is about to say is that extraterrestrial threats are the only way to do it.
The Pope wanted to rule the world. They all knew it, but they couldn't do it. They all knew it, but they knew one way, but there's no way how they're going to pull it off.
What's the one way, man?
The only way is if there was some extraterrestrial threat from up above us. That would be the only way to have everyone embrace the one world government.
This is a good point, especially if you draw parallels between aliens and religions that were created in order to enslave populations to their rulers. Throughout history, rulers have been ordained or claimed that they have been put in place by gods. Sherb goes on to say this.
And you go to the Vatican, you see paintings of like UFOs with aliens in them. And back when I used to believe in UFOs, but before I figured out that UFOs they want us to believe in UFOs. They're preparing us for a fake alien invasion. That's always been the plan. A one world government. The only way to do it is to get us to embrace it. And the only way to embrace it is from an alien attack.
Just take a look at this article published in 2021 that states that UFO sightings went from conspiracy theory to a serious government inquiry. If his theory is to be believed, this would be the beginning of the government introducing this idea into the public sphere.
When people ask me, why would they fake space? It's always been about a fake alien attack. You can't have a fake alien attack.
I've never heard a politician ever talk about a fake
alien attack without space.
Things get interesting because when Rogan and his other guests push back, he then goes on to tie all these theories to the Vatican, the same Vatican which has the mile-wide archive of old books and secret texts.
They have all the astronomers. They're all Jesuit Vaticans, all of them. All the ones that are giving us this information about space, they all come from the Vatican. The Vatican has the most powerful telescope. You know what the name of the Vatican
The
telescope
Vatican
is?
doesn't have the most powerful telescope.
Yes, they do. You know what its name is?
What
It
is
has
it called?
the most powerful telescope, the Vatican. And you know what name it is? I've done the research on YouTube.
On
I have the
YouTube.
links. But you know what the name of this? Do you know
Isn't
what the
the biggest
name
one in
of
Chile?
this? The most powerful telescope in the world. It's in the Vatican. Do you know Lucifer?
While there is conflicting evidence about this, since the Vatican doesn't appear to own the telescope, it does actually exist. Take a look at this. This telescope, with the codename Lucifer, is one of the most powerful telescopes currently available for scientific use. Though Eddie Bravo explored the space as fake and one world government conspiracies deeper, Joe remains unconvinced. These next conspiracies, on the other hand, Joe believes wholeheartedly. Take a listen. Up next, Joe Rogan explains the theories about ancient advanced civilizations in the Amazon to his guest. This is a conversation from episode 1293 with Andrew Santino.
Dude, it was one of the most amazing podcasts I've ever done. To listening to that guy tell this story. I had this guy, Graham Hancock, on, and he was talking to me about all the different shit that they're finding in the Amazon and in South America, and that there used to be 20 million people that lived in the Amazon, and they died off because of sickness.
Rogan goes on to explain exactly how these scientists are finding evidence of the lost civilizations.
Apparently, Europeans, when they came in like the 1500s, they would tell these incredible stories about these huge civilizations in the Amazon. But then when explorers came back 200 years later, there was nothing there. And they were like, this is crazy. They lied. They must have lied. But it turns out they didn't lie. What happened was smallpox ran through the fucking jungle and
White
killed
people.
everybody.
We did it.
And then the jungle just overtook these cities. And now they're finding these cities with something called LiDAR. They use these planes and they circle over this area, or helicopters, whatever the fuck they do. And they shoot this shit down, this LiDAR.
What Rogan is talking about here is LiDAR, or laser imaging, detection and ranging technology. LiDAR works by using a laser to determine the range between a targeted object and the laser projection system. LiDAR 3D